It's Diego with Aim Shoot Develop, and today I'm talking about this camera, the Yashica T2. This is the second installment in the Yashica Terminator series. I will be talking about this camera's features in depth, so stay tuned at the end of the video where I'll be showing some photo examples. Everyone always talks about the Yashica T4 for its ridiculous image output, so I wanted to see how this Yashica T2 stacks against it. The price difference between the two is maybe a couple $100, so I wanted to see how well the T2 does against the T4. I have done a review on the Yashica T4 and you can watch it after I make this video. So you can check out some of the images that I've done to correlate with the ones that I shoot for this one. So check that out after this video. If you like this kind of content, make sure to like and subscribe. I have tons of videos just like this, including other film cameras. I am very passionate about film photography and I'd love more people to get in, so if you have any questions, make sure to leave them in the comments down below, or you can DM me, Aim Shoot Develop, same name as the YouTube channel. I have no problem answering some questions about film cameras, this one or any of the other ones posted on my feed or here on YouTube. This camera is part of the long lineage of Yashica T cameras, starting with the T, which is the first one, all the way up to the T5. The T5 is actually just a clone of the T4. I think it's just a rebranded one. Maybe that one has the Super Scope, which was an additional feature added. So T5, T4, very similar. But the similarities in a lot of them, with the exception of, I believe the T3 has a 2.8 lens, all of them do have a 35mm f3.5 lens. It is, I think, a 4-element or 3-element lens, and it's actually really sharp. The design on this camera is really boxy, but kind of sharp. It actually reminds me of like an old school supercar back in the day. Compared to the Yashica T4, it's much bulkier and honestly doesn't fit in your pocket as well as the T4. I mean, like a denim jacket pocket would probably fit on the inside, but a jean pocket, probably not. But just by looking at it, you can tell that it's a premium point and shoot, with just the little touches and just how it looks. Even this bent glass here that's kind of like at an angle looks really nice and kind of luxurious. It does take one 6-volt 2CR5 battery that goes on the bottom here. This one is the date model, so it does take another CR2025 battery that you can screw on the inside of the camera there. It goes right here. Ergonomics on this camera are actually really good. You can see this little inside part here fits really nice on the hand since I'm right-handed. I'm not too sure how it would go on left-handed people, but right here feels really great in the hands. It also does have this little divot and on the inside for the thumb, so you can put your hands nice and neat. One of the things that I did find actually really early on is that this lens element, since it is kind of deviated down, it does kind of conflict with my fingers sometimes if I'm not very conscious about where my hand or fingers are. So it's just something to keep in mind. Make sure these things are really holding on to this thing like that, because if not, I mean, you can even see here my knuckles kind of posted up over the lens. Yeah, be conscious of it before snapping a picture. I got a few images that my finger ended up on the lens. So to turn the camera on, it does have this little top toggle button that you pushed up. The thing that I kind of don't like about it is that it is clustered with a lot of other buttons like the self timer and the shutter button. So if you hand this off to somebody that doesn't know photography or even doesn't really know how this camera functions, it could get a bit intimidating because a person usually doesn't want to snap a picture by accident, especially if it's film. So, you know, I mean, you can push it on the self timer and it won't do anything unless it's on, but unless you know, it does say on, but I don't know, sometimes it is intimidating when you see a lot of buttons clustered together like this. It does have a daylight flash button, so if you hold this button down and then press on the shutter, it'll do a proper daylight exposure. So if the background's properly exposed but the image itself that you want to take, the subject, isn't, it'll get both of the images perfectly metered for. So nice little feature there. It does have a no flash button that if you hold down, no flash will go through. Really, really clever feature. I know a lot of people like the no flash buttons on their point and shoot, so I mean, you hold the button down and you press it. It's a nice little manual override for the people who are into that kind of stuff. Obviously it won't work any miracles or anything. The lens is sharp but not that sharp, so if it's in complete darkness you should probably use the flash. You don't want to push it too far there. There is also a self timer button that if you push up it'll just blink and confirm that it's taking a picture. That one's pretty self-explanatory, it's just a self timer button. Lastly is this cover over the lens. When I picked this up I actually didn't know if it was on or not, so it does go over the lens and then when you take a picture it moves out of the way, which is actually kind of different. You would have no indicator of knowing if it's on or not unless you kind of knew the layout or knew that this lens cover was there. In the later T4, it does pop out with the lens confirming that the camera is on. I kind of wish it had some indicator, maybe a little noise or maybe something that showed that the camera was on and ready. When I hand this off to people, nothing happens, so they don't know if it's on or not. It's just something different. I kind of wish it had a little indicator knowing that it was on and present. So yeah, with this camera, with people who aren't really familiar with film photography, there is a bit of a learning curve, unfortunately. It's not as simple as like the Olympus Me 1 with just the one button, you push it down, you don't think about it, or my Nikon Light Touch. So with the focus, it does have 3 focus modes. There is portrait, there is a group of people, and a little viewfinder there, and then there is a landscape mode. It's 3 simple, pretty much things to go for. You can see them in the viewfinder and they illuminate as your subject is locked in. On this camera, the autofocus actually did a really good job of locking in the images and getting some really good results. I do see how it is part of the lineage of the Yashica line, because with my T4, I had no problem locking in the focus and I got some really clean shots. So this one goes same. I give it a plus on the image quality. Okay, I was showing a few of the photo examples throughout the video, but here's some more that will just wrap everything up. Like I was saying, this camera does a really good job of getting everything in focus. I had no complaints with it and pretty much gave it a solid plus. The obvious difference between the T4 or the T4 Super D with the Super Scope is that it does have that feature. So whenever I'm taking pictures at weird angles, I still have to put my face towards the viewfinder to get those kind of weird shots where like I'm in the passenger seat, or I don't know, if I'm shooting from the hip. The T4 with the Super Scope does have that luxury, and this one does not. I like taking kind of weird different photos, so going back to putting it to my face and taking those pictures kind of does step me back. After having the T4, it does kind of suck, but still a great camera. The viewfinder is actually pretty decent. Not too bright, but definitely nice contender. The thing I can also say about both of the cameras is that it does instill a bit of confidence. At first when I was taking the pictures, it didn't feel like I was taking like great pictures, if that makes sense. The camera does a great job of leveraging your insecurity of being like, I'm not sure about this camera, and was genuinely blown away with the scans. They came back looking really good. Some of those actually look like borderline digital photos, which is, I mean, crazy. This camera came out back in the day. Like I was saying, I do actually get my fingers in a lot of the frames. I'm not sure if it's this knuckle or maybe this finger, but something to keep in mind. Learn from my mistakes. Make sure where you know where your fingers are, because it does, you know, the fingers are actually really close to the lens here. Overall, I'm actually really impressed with the Yashica T2. I would definitely say pick one of these up and recommend them to people. It does have a bulkier body in comparison to the Yashica T4, obviously, but I wouldn't let that be a hindrance of picking one of these up. I would say that the image output quality is pretty much apples to apples on this. They're both really good and really sharp images. So if you did want to get that kind of really nice portrait, that really nice kind of like, I don't know, I'd say it's a trending look at this time, like the fill flash portraits that people are taking nowadays, go with the T2. It's going to save you a couple $100 in comparison to the T4. I wasn't a big fan of the button layout, but it gets easier over time. Handing it off to somebody to get their picture taken does get a bit intimidating, so keep that in mind. The Yashica T4 is very refined to where you just push the button and, you know, you hit the little toggle on the top there to turn it on. So it's just 2 buttons. With this one, it is the same, but it does take a little bit more of looking and searching to figure out how to do that process. It's not as intuitive. Tell me what you think in the comments down below. Would you be going with the T4 with the refined body, slimmer and weatherproof, or will you be going with the T2, a little bit bulkier, a little bit different of a button layout, but definitely still equally a sharp camera? Let me know, comments down below. Like I had said earlier in the video, make sure to reach out in my Instagram, Aim to Develop. I can answer any questions you may have, or if you want to see some of the more example photos a little bit bigger or more in depth, you can reach out, no problem. I can answer questions about any of the cameras because I want more people to get into film photography. I think it's really fun. Thank you everybody for the continued support. I'd actually made it to the YouTube Partner Program, and I have everybody to thank that watches my videos and just checks them out. Keep shooting film, take care, peace.